Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, we'll speak with representatives of the state's local governments on what they expect from the upcoming legislative session. And we'll hear about what some consider the increasing militarization of local police forces. That's next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Governor Doug Ducey today appointed Phoenix attorney and Goldwater Institute litigator Clint Bolick to the state Supreme Court. The governor said that Bolick is, quote, nationally renowned and respected as a constitutional law scholar and as a champion of liberty. This was the governor's first appointment to the state Supreme Court bench. Bolick was chosen over applicants that included Court of Appeals judges and current and former prosecutors. This week we've been hearing from leaders and advocates of various issues on what they're hoping to see from the new state legislative session, which begins next week. Tonight we look at the legislative priorities of Arizona's cities and towns and counties. Joining us is Ken Strobeck, Executive Director of the Arizona League of Cities and Towns, and Mark Barnes, a representative of the County Supervisors Association of Arizona. Good to have you both here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ted.
What do you expect to see from the session?
Well, I think it's going to be very budget focused, like it always is. We really don't run a lot of bills. We don't have a proactive agenda. We're mostly defensive. We're trying to protect shared revenues and trying to protect local authority. We do have one issue, though, that we are pushing in a coalition, and that is reform of the public safety pension system, which is really important.
And I want to get to that in a second because that is a biggie. As far as what you're expecting, what you're hoping to see from lawmakers this go around.
What the counties are hoping to see is a look at some of the financial responsibilities that the counties assumed during the fiscal crisis. Many of these responsibilities were things that the state had been doing, responsibilities that now the counties shoulder financially, things like funding portions of state agencies. We'd like the legislature and the governor's office to work with us on looking at some of those responsibilities and align them with the management of those responsibilities. I'm talking about things where the counties are required to fund a portion of a state agency when the county's level of government doesn't have any management oversight over that level of government.
Has that changed in recent years, that responsibility?
Since the Great Recession in 2008, out of necessity, the legislature has asked the counties to take on more responsibilities for things that the state had been doing.
Similar scenario for cities and towns?
It has, and last year in the budget it was a new fee of $10 million a year from cities and towns to pay for Department of Revenue operations. Again, that's one of those things that Mark is talking about, that's a state agency. And of course, for years and years we've had sweeps of our HERF funds that are supposed to be going into streets and roads.
Let's talk about HERF, the Highway User Fund. What is it? How is that money supposed to be used?
Its source is the gas tax and other car-related registration and fees and things like that, and it's supposed to be used for streets and roads and operations of streets and roads, but the state has for years taken a portion of that to funnel to DPS operations for statewide highway patrol.
Has that shifting of funds, has it increased over the years? Do you see maybe they're holding back a little bit in the future? I mean, obviously we had the Great Recession and there were a lot of things done that weren't necessarily done before. Is this a trend that's going to stick around?
You know, it's a trend that occurred in the late 90s, and then the funding was restored up to 2008, and then it started to occur again. The funding has shifted over to the Department of Public Safety. And, you know, the shift is one thing, and you know, the shift of the HERF funds to DPS is one thing, but just the adequacy of the HERF formula to fund the transportation needs of the cities and counties and the state too is another issue that's just apart from the shift. There's just not sufficient funds into the fund to allow the proper maintenance of the roadway system, let alone shift monies to fund DPS.
I was going to say, is there an example you can give us where these fund shifts have directly impacted counties?
Oh, certainly, Ted. Last year, the shifted amount is about $12 million, but since 2008, you add the dollar amount per year, it's about 130 million or something for counties, and that funding would have been used to maintain roads, and in some places, build and construct new infrastructure.
When you talk to lawmakers about this and say, I wish you would stop doing this,
Right.
what do they say?
They say, we agree, we should stop doing this. And then unfortunately, when they get into budget negotiations and every dollar matters, then the HERF funds start looking attractive again. But as Mark says, we have lost so much money out of both cities and towns, counties, and the state highway fund. It's the maintenance, it's the upkeep on the roads. And when you drive around, especially rural parts of the state, roads are crumbling, they're falling apart, they're just not getting the maintenance that they should get, and that's really a direct result of the HERF sweeps.
Ted, the fund was created the last time it was really significantly revised was in 1991. And so the funding source, 18 cents per gallon, was matched with with cars that would run about 20 miles per gallon. Now cars go 40, 50 miles, and if they still pay per gallon, then they pay the 18 cents. And then we have cars that don't use gas. We have hybrids, we have electric cars. And so we need to look at this funding system and modernize it so it fits with how the motoring public powers their vehicles.
Let's get to pension reform. Every time we have mayors on here, they keep saying, I can't wait for the state to do so. First of all, what is the problem? What should the state be addressing?
There are a number of reasons why the Public Safety Pension Fund is in the trouble that it's in, and we have a task force that we created about 1.5 years ago that involves cities and counties, and we came up with some recommendations, and I've been part of a negotiating group that's been working with the labor groups, firefighters, police, as well as the employers to try to figure out what can we do. So I think some of the things are the permanent benefit increase, the very generous benefits that are paid out to retirees, the number of years they have to serve when they can retire, and governance, and the fact that we have a fragmented system of 256 different plans rather than one single plan. So we are very much encouraged by the negotiations that have gone on so far, and cities and towns have a huge stake in this. Right now there's over $6 billion of unfunded liability in the public safety pension system, and cities and towns are responsible for $4 billion of that money. And so it's really something that must be addressed this session.
For those who are confused about this entire issue, they're hearing pension. Well, the city takes care of some pension, state should take care of others. Why are these twain meeting?
This is a particular pension system for public safety personnel. That any individual who's in the public safety sector is part of this pension system. It just operates a little bit differently than those.
It's just basically a different beast.
It's cities, towns, DPS officers, fire districts, everybody that's in the public safety sector is part of this plan, but we don't have a role in governing it or in making decisions about how these benefits are done. And so over time, it really has needed a lot of attention. We're getting that attention this time around, but it's one of those things that we're now shouldering the billions of dollars of liability.
So cities and counties can do all they can to a certain degree, but the state's got to.
It needs to be reformed with the help of the state.
Okay.
And I think we're getting that help. We've made a lot of progress. And reforming it will allow us to eliminate barriers that right now are preventing us from adding officers. And from the county's perspective, sheriffs, deputies, and so forth.
Yeah, the contribution rate in some jurisdictions is so high, it's up to 50, 60, 70%. So you have a salary, but you have to additionally match that percentage of the salary just into the retirement system. So you're basically hiring 1.5 people for a position that should be just one.
Why is it taking so long to get this done?
It's very hard to change one of these huge systems. You know, it has so many people that are involved in it. It has a lot of constituents that are interested in its success and how it operates. And so it's just one of those things that's it's a big challenge.
The residential tax, does that impact counties?
It doesn't.
It doesn't. Okay, so this is more of a cities kind of a.
Yes.
Then you tell me about this, because I know there's an effort afoot, and we had a lively debate on this program regarding what is that tax and what's.
You know, cities and towns are funded primarily by sales tax, transaction privilege tax, which is the tax on the business of doing business. And one of the things that we tax at the city level is residential rental. And that's apartments and houses and things like that. It's a huge amount of tax. It's over $70 million a year for cities and towns. And there's a proposal to just eliminate it because some people say, well, we just don't like paying that tax. Well, nobody likes paying that tax, but you can't take $70 million out of city and town revenues when we're already on a very tight financial system and not have an impact on the services that are delivered.
All right, I'm a lawmaker. You've buttonholed me somewhere, and it's your opportunity to tell me what counties need the most from the legislature. What is it?
I think what counties need the most is the ability to work with them constructively, to partner with them constructively, to change some of the financial relationships between the state and the counties so that the counties are put on a firm financial ground to operate long term. We have some counties that are in very difficult financial situations because of the constraints they operate under. Things like expenditure limits, levy limits, things that were put in place 40 years ago. So long term, those are sort of the most important things. On specific issues for this session, our association has a number of bills we'll be proposing that will make county government run more effectively, efficiently. County government can only do the things that the legislature grants us the authority to do, and so we need to work every year to change laws to make that happen.
Okay, you've got me in an elevator here. Give me your elevator speech.
Right, it's protect shared revenue. That's always such an important issue for us. And this year we have a change to the distribution through the population census activities that our cities and towns do every 10 years. We're proposing that they update their numbers every year with U.S. Census Bureau numbers. But we're also based on income tax. Unlike counties, we have local sales tax and a portion of the income tax. So if there are income tax cuts that are being proposed, as they are, we expect to have some way to make up that revenue because we're operating on a very, very narrow margin.
All right. Gentlemen, good to have you both here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ted.
Get the inside scoop on what's happening at Arizona PBS. Become an 8 Insider. You'll receive weekly updates on the most anticipated upcoming programs and events. Get the 8 Insider delivered to your email inbox. Visit azpbs.org to sign up today.
A series of police shootings around the country is leading to concerns over what some perceive as the increasing militarization of local police departments. But the issue turned after recent terrorist attacks increased support for supplying law enforcement with military-style gear and weapons. Here now to discuss the issue is former Mesa City Councilman Scott Summers, a fellow at the GW Center for Cyber and Homeland Security and ASU professor of emergency management. Good to see you again. Thanks for being here.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Militarization of local police departments. What are we talking about?
Right. Well, when you think about the militarization of police, you envision naturally what some people would call tanks. They're actually MRAPs, which are armored personnel carriers. You see police officers carrying heavier weapons such as an M16 or AR-15, bulletproof vest, helmet, something that you would expect on a battlefield in Iraq or Afghanistan.
How much are PDs, police departments, stockpiling these things?
Well, police departments have been stockpiling these and getting them off of the Department of Defense really since 1996. That's when Congress approved the use of DoD, what's called the 1033 program. Transitions material from the Department of Defense over to local police agencies. And in 1996, Congress added the use for anti-drug trafficking and anti-terrorism activity.
Now, but correct me if I'm wrong, didn't something change with that somewhat recently as far as the Department of Defense handing out these things? Or?
Right. President Obama here previously in May made some changes based on what was seen in Ferguson. So it put some limits on the types of equipment that police agencies could obtain. For example, with the MRAPs, you can't have tracked vehicles, only wheeled vehicles. But realistically, police departments weren't getting tracked vehicles. They aren't getting aircraft that are armored, those types of things. But what it really did do is it added another layer of reporting and made it more difficult for policing agencies to get some of this equipment.
More oversight, I would imagine.
Far more oversight makes it difficult, certainly.
I mentioned at the top the dynamic here. On one side, you're seeing these police shootings and people are saying something's going on out there. They're seeing police decked out in this gear. They're not comfortable. You're seeing San Bernardino, you're seeing what happened in Paris, and you want to see local police officers decked out in whatever they need to do to get the job done. Where are we now in this debate?
Well, that's what we have now is a debate, and it's, quite frankly, it's a very healthy debate. On one hand, local law enforcement still does what police have always done, right? They catch bank robbers, they hand out speeding tickets, they do a myriad of public services. But really, policing faces a new threat that started back in 2008 after the Mumbai attacks. What we saw are terrorists acting in cities in a way that we hadn't seen before. They're well coordinated, they're using military equipment, they're using military-style tactics in an effort to get a high body count. Previously, much terrorism was about how much money we can get or can we get a political prisoner freed. Today, well, now we're looking at a whole different threat.
Is that tilting the equation more toward militarization?
Well, I think it certainly raises the question where you can see where this equipment has benefit. When you saw the apprehension of the terrorists in San Bernardino, they were using the same style equipment, the MRAPs that pulled up. They were using them both to protect the officers, but protect civilians as well. And so it's the application of this equipment and the tactics used, that's really the question, when and where to use
Exactly,
them.
because I think what concerns most people, routine raids, search warrants, these sorts of things,
Right.
They don't want to see a combat soldier knocking on their front door.
Certainly, and I think that's a legitimate concern. When you have a low-level drug offender with no history utilizing battle tactics, for lack of a better term, in that apprehension, is that going too far? On the other hand, you can see clearly what happens when police aren't properly armed, because Colorado Springs at Planned Parenthood shooting, one officer did what he needed to do and got himself between the people being shot, and he was shot ultimately himself. So this was an individual, one might argue, needed to be better armed and better equipped with some of the material that we're seeing out of the DoD program.
It sounds like the question is, the question will be, are police officers peacekeepers or warriors?
Well, we should never think of police officers as war fighters. We're not fighting a war. What they need to be, in my opinion, and keep in mind, I am not a police chief, but what they need to be are peacekeepers, but they need to be ready to interdict in some very significant incidents of national significance. So let's face it, a terrorist attack is an unusual attack, but it's going to be the frontline police officer that is the first responder to that incident, and that's who we expect to stop the terrorist attack.
So last question, I mean, is increased militarization, is that the new normal? Where do we go from here?
I think where we go from here is we need to continue to have the discussion with our local policing, and ultimately the answer is multifold, but one, police clearly need to have access to this equipment. The question is, when should they be allowed to utilize the equipment? How is that instituted? Local police chiefs need to work with their local community on answering that question. Ultimately, though, the concepts of community policing, engaging police officers, not only with the minority community, but immigrant community and religious groups, that's going to be the front line to preventing these types of attacks.
That application is the bottom line.
Absolutely.
All right, good to see you again. Thanks for joining
Thank
us.
you.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Tonight's edition of Arizona Art Beat looks at a local hat maker. Eric Watson is the youngest hat maker in the country, but as producer Shauna Fisher and photographer Scott Olson show us, he's doing things the old-fashioned way.
Most days you'll find Eric Watson sitting at his Prohibition-era sewing machine, hat in hand.
We actually make the hat from beginning to end. That way it's perfect for the customer when it's done. It's exactly what they wanted.
Watson opened his hat shop in Cave Creek in 2012, but his fascination with hats goes back to when he was just 12 years old.
I loved Indiana Jones as a kid. That's what inspired me. And I had my mother actually drive me around to old antique shops, and we found old hats. I found some old hat making equipment, and then I would restore those old hats and make them look like Indiana Joneses.
After a brief stint as a pilot, Watson followed his passion. Because hat making is a dying art, he had to rely on elder hat makers for advice and equipment.
Most of the equipment that we have in our shop came out of some of the oldest hat shops that were in the U.S. So we have equipment that dates from 1860 to 1940s.
Getting a custom-made hat at Watson's Hat Shop is a special experience.
Well, the first thing we do is when you come in, customers either going to know what type of hat they want or they have no idea. So we take a look at their features, because the facial proportions, their body proportions, that all goes into building the hat style, but also the correct aesthetic of the hat that goes with who they are.
The next step is measuring a client's head circumference. At Watson's Hat Shop, that means using an old-fashioned contraption called a conformateur. After that, it's time to make the hat. The walls of his shop are lined with brim forms and hat forms for cowboy, derbies, and Panama hats. Watson offers 32 different colors of beaver felt. The felt works well because it's water-resistant and durable.
You can actually see how there's a sheen that's coming on the hat. We go through about 65 different processes from start to finish when we make the hat. So the whole time the hat is being handmade, but it's being made with old antique hat making equipment.
Watson's attention to the old ways serves him well. On his list of clients,
we've made, of course, hats for a lot of people. A few famous people that is Kenny Chesney. We made a really nice black cowboy hat for him. We also made a hat for Justin Timberlake. Another hat that we made was for Al Roker, and that was a fedora-style hat.
But it's not just the famous who are collaborating on creations.
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, it looks exactly like the photo on the album cover, and I was really excited.
Chef and owner of Brian's Black Mountain Barbecue, Brian Dooley, commissioned Watson to create an exact replica of a hat worn by his favorite jazz musician, Thelonious Monk.
I brought all these pictures to Eric, and I said, hey, can we make this hat? And it's actually this hat here. And as we went to put the hat together, he found lots of interesting things about the hat. He was actually wearing it backwards in the picture. He took the feather out of the side and he put it in the front, which is why I have it right here in the front. So we had a lot of fun kind of just replicating that.
Watson says hats today are often an extension of one's personality, like Dooley's, but that wasn't always the case.
Hats have been very popular since the 1700s, 1800s, even early 1900s. But during that time frame, you had horseback, you had carriages, and you would walk, or you would, horseback somewhere. You would ride somewhere, horseback. So the hat was a utility item, and it was meant to shelter you while you were doing your commute, but also it was traditional through a long period of time.
And that tradition is dying out. Consider this. In the 1900s, there were 700 hat-making shops in New York City alone. Now there are just a handful of custom hat makers like Watson. But the tide could be changing, notes Dooley.
A cool thing about Eric in town here is I've noticed over the last couple of years since he's been here that there's so many more hats in town. And it's really changed not just the look of myself, but the look of the town itself. You can walk down the street and see hats all over, and that's really cool to see, and that's because of Eric.
Prices for Watson's hats begin at $300.
we want to hear from you. Submit your questions, comments, and concerns via email at arizonahorizon@asu.edu.
Thursday on Arizona Horizon, we'll take a look at the results of a new survey that focuses on education, and members of the environmental community talk about their expectations of the upcoming legislative session. That's at 5:30 and 10 on the next Arizona Horizon. A reminder, if you want to watch tonight's show again, see what we have in store for the future, maybe take a look at past shows, check us out, azpbs.org/horizon. That's azpbs.org/horizon. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.